Bam, we're live. Q&A episode. We put up a poll on Instagram for you guys to, I guess it wasn't a poll, but for you guys to submit questions, and you guys delivered. But before we start with that, I have a PSA. And
I don't know anything about this, guys. So
it's not.
you see, there's only two of us today. Taylor is deep in meditation. He's getting his mind right for tomorrow. There's no messing around. He has a time to beat. He needs full focus. He needs full rest. And yeah, he doesn't want you guys to get him fired up tonight. So you're gonna have to wait till tomorrow to see him.
True. I have a story to go along with my PSA, but it's not anything that'll get you in trouble, JR. Don't worry. If you are somebody who has a dog that is either stronger than you, so you can't control it, or you don't train it well, so you can't control it, either one of those things, you shouldn't go out in public with it, especially not with other dogs around. But if it's both of those things, then you really shouldn't, and you should reconsider, being a dog owner. Because I was at this trail yesterday with Eddie, and recently we've switched to no dogs at CrossFit Charlotte, which I think in the grand scheme of things is a good rule, makes sense. But basically, Eddie used to never leave my side. I would take him everywhere with me, and now I can't bring him to the gym, which is where I am for a lot of the day. So I feel like he's getting kind of cooped up. So I took him to this trail like 30 minutes away, and we were walking, and I was walking with him off his leash, but he has like really good recall, and he just walks next to me anyway. So we see these people and a dog coming up. So I was like, "Oh, Eddie, come here." Eddie saw the dog, but he came right over to me. I put his leash on. The other dog has a leash on. So we're starting to walk by, and it's the biggest German Shepherd I've ever seen in my life. Like the only dogs I've ever seen that weighed more than this dog were Great Danes. And the biggest German Shepherd I've ever seen, we start passing this lady, and she like stops and like gets like, and is like talking to her dog. So I'm like, oh shit, this dog's like going to be reactive. It's whatever. So we just try to keep walking by, and this dog just starts like pulling and pulling, and the lady drops her leash, and she's like freaking out. This dog comes over and attacks Eddie. He bites Eddie's back leg. Eddie's yelping. I basically like body slam this dog and try to like pick up Eddie. And I'm like at the same time like yelling at the other dog to like just like kind of spook it and get it to go away. It didn't draw any blood, but I was so fucking mad. And eventually I think she must have grabbed the leash again and like pulled him back. And at that point he was kind of just kind of starting to listen to her a little bit more. But he did bite Eddie. He didn't draw any blood, and Eddie was fine. But and the lady's like, I don't know why you do that. I don't know why you do that. And I just ignored her, and I was checking Eddie for blood, just checking him. And then we eventually just keep walking. And the whole time we're walking, I'm just ready for this dog to get loose and run us down. And I'm like, if this dog runs us down, I'm going to keep Eddie's leash on me long enough that the dog will come to us. And as soon as it gets close enough, I'll let Eddie go and run, and I'm going to grab this dog and break its fucking neck. I was ready to like kill this dog. And I almost wanted the dog to run up and do this. I was so mad.
Yeah. I mean, so at one point I had 3 boxers, at one time with 2 smaller Shih Tzus. So we had a ton of dogs at one point, but I grew up with boxers, and I mean, they're super friendly dogs. They're really goofy, but they're really strong. They're a medium-sized dog. So nothing like,
I had a
Great Dane
boxer.
or a German Shepherd, but we used to take them to dog parks, and they're goofy, and they run up and they jump a lot, and they get up on their back legs a lot, and they box. And the thing that would really just bother me is if your dog isn't great around other dogs, why are you bringing them to public places where there are other dogs? Why are you taking them to trails? Why are you taking them to dog parks? I mean, the story that you just tell, dogs can feel your energy for sure. Yeah. And how like when you guys approached, the owner just kind of freaked out. It made her dog freak out.
Yeah.
Like they will feed off of your energy, whether it's the other people that are involved or especially the owner though. Like,
yeah, and I'm sure the dog just wants to protect her.
If they act threatened, yeah, for sure. Then that's unfortunate to hear, but I don't blame you at all. That's exactly how I would have felt.
Yeah. And I used to have a boxer, and he was a really great dog. Eddie's a great dog. And like I get like kind of reactive dogs. and like just a lot of barking, and you can take those dogs out and you have to train them and stuff like that. But like if you know your dog wants to play a lot or wants to, even if it wants to fight, like if you can't control probably 120-pound German Shepherd, then you're not the person to be taking that dog out there.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought I saw something in the comment. Oh yeah, finger in the dog butt works every time. This sounds kind of funny, but I've seen like dog training videos where like if dogs get in a fight, you're just supposed to shove your finger in whatever the aggressive dog's butt is, and it'll get it to like let go. And I was probably like another second of him latched onto Eddie. I already was thinking that because I had seen that in a lot of videos, but he'd let go once I like got in between them and shoved him.
We one of the first houses that we lived in is when we had all 3 boxers. Our youngest one was not fixed, so he was intact. We were going to breed him. He was a reverse brindle sealed boxer, so he looked black, basically jet black. And we always had the other ones fixed. And we had a male who was kind of the alpha of the pack. He was older. He's probably 4 or 5 years old. He was fixed, but he was a really big boxer. And on the way home from like seeing a patient in home health, I found this stray female, really small boxer on the side of the road. So I got in the car, called the Humane Society, kept it in our garage, let our 3 dogs out. They smelled that dog. It was in heat, apparently. It caused a huge fight between my 2 male boxers. We got the hose. It was bad. It was really bad. Lots of blood. If you've never seen a dog really fight till blood, once they taste blood, it is a thing. They like go crazy. It is like the craziest animal instinct ever. And I mean, they loved each other. Like they played every day. They slept in the same area. Like, but at that time, whether it was the female or just like hey, we're going to find out who the real alpha is because my youngest one wasn't fixed. And I got in the middle of them, and the biggest one bit me right here because he lunged at the other one.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of neuropathy in this hand, and it's why this elbow doesn't lock out very much. That's as far as it goes. It's just kind of residual effect from that. But it was like the scariest thing that's ever happened until I had kids. And then when they get hurt, that's way scarier. But and they're only like 80, 90 pounds. So I mean, if you imagine like really, really big dogs, when they want to do something, there's not anything you can do about it unless you're prepared to like kill it, like for sure.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, it's scary. It's crazy how like they're pets and they're great, but at the end of the day, they're still animals. That's it.
Yep. All right. Sorry. No, this is not a dog show. I just had to get that out because I've been thinking about that for the last 24 hours about how I wanted to kill this dog. But so we have the Q&A, and I figured we would just pick the ones we like and go back and forth until we get to like close to an hour on the show.
Yeah.
And then I know I just sent you screenshots. There's 1 or 2 extra ones that came in since then. I'll start. This one's from Will Plummer. Is tonight my Shut Up and Scribble debut? No. All right. Go ahead and pick whichever one you want.
Will, we should have thought about that ahead of time. That's something we need to do. We need to have Will on because I would like to pick Will's brain live with Bryson and Taylor on the screen so that they can let Will answer. Will can answer as honestly as he wants. And then, questions about Sentinel, about the pecking order, as it were. What kind of things he has to do. Is it the kind of thing Bryson used to have to do? Do they kind of like mess with you sometimes and make you do things that really aren't necessary? There's a little bit of hazing involved in all jobs. So
yeah, definitely.
All right, I'm gonna pick one. This is from Rich Matthews 23. He has a couple of them in here, but this one kind of caught my eye. What tells you that a program is well designed at first glance? So we probably need to define what first glance is, but let's just say you get a week of programming and you just skim it, right? So you give each day a quick look and you don't go back and you don't do any movement analysis like we did last week with World Fitness Project, and you don't do any crazy breakdown, but you just look at it. So first glance, what tells you it's good?
If I'm answering first, I would say like literal first glance, and maybe this isn't a good indicator, but this biases me, is just that it's written well. Like the weights are all after the movement, and if that movement is repeated, then it doesn't say the weight again, and everything's written out. There's not abbreviations except for, like you said, glute ham developer can be abbreviated. I agree with that. That kind of writing, like 4-time : enter the workout, things like that, 5 rounds for time and not just 5 rounds. Things like that already put me in a headspace of like, okay, someone at least cares about this.
Gotcha. No, that's good. I have a few different things, and it's all first glance stuff. I make sure that every single day isn't 4-time or AMRAP. So if every single day is either task priority or time priority, I'm already like, oh, this isn't good. Mm-hmm. Like just straight off the bat. I don't care. Like, not talking about different formats or intervals or anything like that. Just as long as everything isn't written 4-time or 4 reps. The other one I would say is if every day doesn't have more than 3 movements. So if every day is like a quartet or a chipper or a back-to-back-to-back couplet, or if there's not just like a couple triplets and maybe 1 or 2 couplets, I'm already kind of just like, this person's trying way too hard. Like,
yeah,
you don't need to do 4 or more movements for every single workout. So those are the kind of the quick things for me. After that, I would say it's time domains for me. And when I start to look at it, it's like, if everything's under 7 minutes, I'm not gonna like it. If everything's 15 minutes or more, I'm not gonna want to keep looking at it.
Yeah, I would say the one you said before that, like every movement or every workout having like 4 movements or more, that, and maybe you could argue it's the same thing, but to me, when I think about that, that's something that makes it stand out as bad. Yes. Not necessarily something where I'm like looking for the opposite makes it stand out as good. Like if I see every day as a triplet or couplet, and then there's maybe 1 like chipper or something, that doesn't necessarily make me think, oh, this is good. Like there's still other things I would have to see, but 4 movements in every workout or more would definitely make me think it's bad. And then what was the last thing you said? That made me think of something I wanted to say too.
Just different time domains. If I see a good spread of time domains, if there's something short, if there's something long, and there's some stuff in between, I feel like you're already halfway there. To a good program.
Time domains is probably the correct answer. Like I said, like things being written out, theoretically, someone could have a really good program, and you could take a week of Sentinel and change all the format of everything, like how it's written, but make it all the exact same stuff in practice. And obviously it would still be good programming, but so yeah, maybe my answer isn't correct. It's just what I would think, but time domains is probably the correct answer. And I've always thought about this, like you could have a 3 workout competition or a 3-day string of programming. And every day has completely different movements, but they're all 5-minute AMRAPs. Like one's a really good pushing and pulling workout, and the next day is a really good squatting workout. And the next day it's a monostructural and pulling from the floor, but it's all 5-minute AMRAPs, or even let's just say 10-minute AMRAPs. That is worse. That is a worse programmed 3 days than if you have the same movement and rep scheme. So 5 ring muscle ups and a 15 cal row. Day 1 is a 5-minute AMRAP. Day 2 is a 10-minute AMRAP, and day 3 is a 15-minute AMRAP. They're both horrible, but I would take the second one with just the 5, 10, 15-minute AMRAPs over the first day, at least in terms of like somewhat testing someone's fitness. And maybe 5, 10, 15 isn't enough of a spread. Maybe it would have to be like 5, 15, and 30. Yeah. And then it would tell you the difference.
Yeah, that's interesting, because we've talked about that before, how like there was a week or so where, way back in the day, where Greg took, I think, 3 different workouts, like rowing, muscle ups, and I don't know, shoulder overhead or something, clean and jerks, I think, and or hang cleans, and he just programmed them in different combinations with different rep schemes for like a full week. And that's kind of what you're saying, is that is you would take the you would take the redundancy in movement pattern as long as the time domains were different over the redundancy in time domains with different movements. So
Yeah.
that's interesting. Yeah. At first glance, also, if I'm just looking at a week, this is maybe tertiary or even quaternary to the things I've already said, but like there needs to be a couple things that are heavy. I'm not saying I'm looking for a heavy day specifically, but I'm looking for a couple truly heavy things. So let's say that one day they're going to do some heavy back squats and then they have a short sprint workout afterward. Fine. Let's say that one day their workout is 10 rounds for time of a 200-meter run and 4 sandbag cleans with a 200 and a 150. And I'm like, okay, that's heavy. That's a heavy workout. Like it's 40 reps in a conditioning setting, but it's still heavy. It's still moving large loads, long distances, fast. So
yeah,
I look for a couple heavy things. I don't think there needs to necessarily be more than 2, especially if it's a GPP program. But if you're doing a heavy day, that's great. But I still think you can get some sort of heavy element somewhere else in the week.
Yeah, and like you said, it doesn't have to be maxing out a back squat or maxing out a clean and jerk. Like that semifinal workout with the overhead lunges is a really good example. That really is the heaviest workout of that competition. I think that's heavier than heavy Isabel.
I think there's an argument to be made, maybe based on quality of movement, or I don't know, structural stability for sure.
Yeah, and the fact that it even is for some people like proves that, hey, it's a heavy test.
It was too heavy for people that are some of the best in the world to fake it.
Yeah.
Like it was that heavy, which kind of shows you that. Well, this is another conversation, but I think what Boz may be the best at is programming a online intermediate stage of competition. I think he is as good as there has been. Not necessarily open, and then the games he only had really 1 full year. But I think as far as programming like a semifinal or an age group online qualifier or a quarterfinals, which he's like always programmed, I think since 2021, he's really good at that stage. And I think like being able to program workouts like that on paper you don't really think of as just being like crazy heavy, but they end up exposing people, I think is like the best thing that you can do at that stage, is to make sure that someone doesn't have a hole. And it's hard to do with 4 or 5 workouts.
Yeah. Would you say that's a product of him being really creative with few resources, and it's almost a detriment when he has more, like skills medley at the games? Like there's just too much going on. Like it's almost like you look at that workout and you're almost like, oh, he got too excited.
Well, I think I actually had a discussion about this with someone the other day, and I told them that in his shoes, I think anyone else that would ever say like their dream would be to program the CrossFit Games, it would be really hard for you not to say, you know what, this is the only chance I'm going to get, so I'm going to take all the swings I can. Like I think he did what all of us would have done. But I think, there is a tendency maybe sometimes to put too much new stuff in at the same time, but I can't really blame him when it comes to the CrossFit Games.
I think it's part of his creativity, and that's why when he's like limited to an online competition where you have to basically go off of a standard equipment list and only a couple workouts, he can be really creative.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I think the year that they did Taylor versus the World, there was only 4 workouts. I think that we should do a show soon. It's the best programmed competitions, our top 5, and it could be any stage. It could be one of the old opens. It can be it could be CrossFit Games. Maybe we should put some parameters, like you have to have at least 1 from each stage of competition in your top 5. But that quarterfinals with the clean and jerk ladder, the intervals with the step ups and the snatches and the row, the triple G type workout with the handstand push up, rope climb, muscle up, and then the 50-50 times 3. That's, for what it was supposed to do, that's one of the best programmed competitions that I can think of.
Do you think almost like I guess not quite almost a year later, but pretty far removed from last year's online semifinals now. Do you think that was still, you still think that was a really good test? Because I remember talking about it on Shut Up and Scribble. We all thought so. And I still think so. I think that was one of the best online tests we've had.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think looking back on it, and I mean, obviously, everyone just had the heavy Isabel hangover.
Yeah.
I think making that mandatory squat snatch would have made it even better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've never thought about that, but I agree. Just thinking about it right now. Next question: recommendations for someone who uses Sentinel but needs to put on size, time emphasis question mark. So we can just answer this as someone who's doing any sort of written program, who needs to put on size. I don't know what you mean by time emphasis. I don't know if that means like the workouts, like you're only prioritizing shorter workouts. I would guess is what you're asking. I don't think that you need to do that. I think you should follow the program as written. And when you're trying to gain size, I would say nutrition is the most important. And then if you're really wanting to make sure that it goes to like your upper body, which is when people are trying to gain size, that's usually where it is, because then it's going to still help you on machines, but also help your gymnastics get better. Whereas if you just keep growing your legs, yeah, you'll be a better rower and echo biker, but your pull-ups are going to feel it. You could just add in some push-ups and pull-ups, strict pull-ups, strict chest to bar, things like that. Some bodybuilding accessory that isn't like too taxing for you. You could add that on to your program just to make sure it's going to the right places. But I would say more than anything, it's nutrition. I wouldn't change anything about the program you're following.
Yeah, I mean, you took my answer. I was kind of what I was going to kind of go away from the training. I can't remember who it was that told me this, or I probably heard it on a podcast. I definitely didn't think of it myself, but I heard one time that if you want to put on mass or you want to lose mass, you have to be okay with being full and feeling full almost all the time, and you also have to be okay feeling hungry all the time if you want to lose weight. And it's really uncomfortable. And I think a lot of people try to just go to the training. Well, it's Bryson wants me to do 5 clean and jerks EMOM for 10 minutes with 155. And that sounds pretty tough, but I'm trying to put on some size. So I'm going to do 3 at 225 instead. Like, that's not going to put on lean mass. Like,
Yeah.
it's first of all, weightlifting, like Olympic weightlifting, is probably one of the worst things as far as like hypertrophy goes. Is as far as doing something that takes, I don't know, less than 2 seconds to do. There's not a lot of time under tension. There's so many other things you could do, strict gymnastics, the powerlifting movements, all that stuff. But I think that you just, like, instead of eating like your 8 ounces of steak and hitting exactly what your macros are, like, you should probably eat a 12. It's just,
Yeah.
you need to just eat in surplus of your expenditure, and you will put on mass. And if you're not eating a bunch of fake food, I think you'll do that without gaining a lot of fat, like adipose tissue, which is kind of the way that we want to do it. So yeah, I think the answer there is nutrition. If someone said, hey, you can't use nutrition as the answer, what would you tell them? Like, how would you tell them to look at a program and bias it a little bit more? I mean, I know the easy answer is, I think you're going to get what you need if you just follow it. But if there was one thing, it could be accessory work added on. It could be tweaking percentages. Like, what do you think the answer would be if you had to tell someone that nutrition wasn't the answer?
I would say hard, strict gymnastic sets. So not just like, oh yeah, I'm going to do my EMOM of strict pull-ups that like if you can do over 25 strict pull-ups in a row, an EMOM of 5 is until you get to 50 or even 100 isn't really going to do it for you. Like, you need to be doing hard sets, a really hard set, like just doing 2 back-to-back sets of 20 unbroken strict pull-ups. If you're someone whose max set is probably 25, that's going to do more for you than getting to 100 in sets of 5. Like, doing hard, strict gymnastics work, I think, especially for your upper body. And then further than that, I think it could depend a little bit on the person. Like, if someone was just sort of, it's not that they had noodle arms and they had a huge chest or anything like that. They're just generally small, but they were really strong. I'd like to watch them lift. I mean, a lot of people are just really naturally good squatters and can just push their knees forward, never even push the hips back, and keep their torso straight up and down the whole time. And sometimes doing your back squat sets the perfect way, like slight hips back, feel your glutes and your hamstrings, lower your hips until you're below parallel. You have that slight lean forward, and you'd just be so surprised how much your mid back and core is just destroyed the next day. So stuff like that, if you're just generally small, making sure you're bracing properly when you're lifting and getting everything you can out of your lifts and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a really good one. The one thing I thought of when you started your thing with gymnastics is, especially if you're not someone that's really not used to training the strict movements this way, is just do them weighted for a couple months. So whenever you have pull-ups, hold a medicine ball, hold a dumbbell. If you have a belt, great, that you can put a plate in between. If you're doing push-ups, same thing. Ask someone to put a plate on your back. Throw on a vest when you're doing strict handstand push-ups. Just load the gymnastics movements. Give yourself a little bit more resistance there. And I'm sure that, especially if you're not used to it, that could be something good. To your point too, I think it's really interesting because it's something that I don't do. If I'm going to do like pull-ups, I'm just going to accumulate a certain number. Like yesterday, our intervals were every 8 minutes for 32 minutes. 800-meter bike, 400-meter ski, 400-meter bike, 200-meter ski. So 4 to 5 minutes is where pretty much everyone was. So it gave you like 3 to 4 minutes of rest. And this wasn't in the programming, but it's something that I want to start doing on like Thursdays and Sundays when we do machine work, is adding in movement to do during the rest. So like, I'm not trying to make it a workout. I'm not trying to make a Metcom and say, hey, there's 4 sets here. After every set, do 10 to 15 strict pull-ups. Just do them at some point. You don't have to do them in a row. Do one at a time if you want. Walk around for 2 minutes, then do all 15, whatever you want to do. I think maybe doing some of that stuff would be really beneficial to some people that may not have the time to get it in otherwise. Because if time is an issue, I think the question had a time emphasis in question mark. Throw in something that's not going to interfere with what you're doing. So if you're supposed to be squatting and you're going every 3 minutes and they're supposed to be heavy squats, I don't think there's anything wrong with supersetting some weighted pull-ups during the rest. That's really not going to take away from the session of squatting. But if you don't have time, it could also be a way to get in some extra pulling volume, you know?
Yeah. Do you have another one you want to pull up?
Yeah. So, 3 things you wish. This question is, this is Rich Matthews again. 3 things you wish someone would have told you before you started programming workouts well. So like, I guess the question is, when you started programming initially, I mean, none of us are nearly as good as you are with practice, like anything, but what's something you wish someone would have told you?
You answer first if you have an answer, because I'm gonna need some like inspiration. I saw this one earlier and I was like, man, if I read this one, I'm gonna make JR answer first, because I have no idea. Like, I would need like a thought process to start.
Yeah, I will. I think early on, especially when I look back at some of the workouts that I wrote, my default was always to take a workout that I thought was easy and just make it a little bit heavier. That's it. So if I had a workout, let's just say it's Diane, because back in the day, you know, people used to do benchmarks all the time. I used to program benchmarks more frequently than I do now, just the classic ones, because I mean, people were a lot less fit 10 years ago, and doing stuff like that. I mean, some people couldn't do any handstand push-ups. Some people could only do them strict. Some people 225 or 155 is a really heavy deadlift. So for my population, that kind of stuff really held up. And I think the tendency back then was me to be like, okay, I want to do Diane, but I want to make it a little harder. All right, what should I do? I never once thought, well, I'll just make the handstand push-up strict. I was just like, let's make it 275 instead, or let's make it 315 instead. So I think early on, when I was going to write a workout, if I thought that it was maybe a little bit too fast, or it was not the stimulus that I wanted, my default, and Dave talks about this all the time, my default was, I think, always to make it heavier, is that heavier was going to make it harder. Now that I look at something like Diane, like Fran, and a lot of the 21-15-9s, I think if you just make the first round 27 and it's 4 rounds, it's now a workout that for 2025 really holds up. So if you just take a classic one, don't mess with the weight, don't mess with the movement combinations. Just tick the volume up a little bit to where most people can't do it unbroken. Then that's the answer before. Let's make it 12-9-6 at 405 and parallel handstand push-ups. Like, that's not, you don't always have to do that, you know? So I think that's something I wish someone would have told me earlier, is that heavier doesn't mean harder.
Yeah. I mean, in my like early days of programming, it was for myself and changing a lot of the workouts that Josh wrote for me just a little bit based on like how I was feeling that day or what I wanted to do. Or, like I would usually have him leave 1 or 2 days of the week just completely empty. And I would just do like, I would write my own workouts. So it was never writing for other people, which I think makes my answer a little bit more specific to like programming for yourself. But it would probably be to program sets and reps a little bit outside of your comfort zone. Like if I was going to do a ring muscle up workout, it's always been something, not always, but like always for the level I was at, it was always something I was pretty good at. Even when I could only do like 3 in a row compared to the other people who were at my fitness level, which was very, very low, they could probably only do 1 or 2. So even though it was something I was good at, when I would program it, I would always program it if it was like a 5-round workout. It would always be something that's like, oh yeah, that'll be hard, but I can do that unbroken every round. That's why it'll be this number. Whereas like it was never just one number over what I know I could do unbroken and maybe blowing up because of that, or maybe having to practice doing a really quick break on every round from the start. Things like that. So that is really specific to programming for yourself. Cause obviously if you're writing like a class track or a general track, then it's no one's perfect number. Like everyone's, and in like the case of the open, the 20-minute AMRAP with the 10 deadlifts after the rowing and double unders, those 10 deadlifts for a lot of people at the top are obviously always unbroken. But for someone in class, that might be a 6 and 4 every time. For someone that might be like, oh, I think I can do that unbroken, but it might get really hard in the last 5 minutes. I don't know if I can hold it then. And then for someone else, it might be, yeah, I'm doing quick 2s the whole time. So things like that, and just forcing you to be a little bit more disciplined, I think is something I could have worked on a lot more in my early days of training. And because I would always feel like a god when I was training. I was like, man, I did that whole workout unbroken, but I programmed it that way. And then I'd show up to a competition and it would be that number that's 1 or 2 more than I know I could do. And I would just get slapped around because I'd be taking too long of breaks.
Yeah. And I mean, it's easy too, because when you're talking to other people about it, I know for me, it's easy to tell them, hey, just go for that one more. And if you fail, like if you don't know, then you need to find out. It's training. And that's usually where the adaptation happens, is right at the margins, right, of your limits. And, you know, I'm kind of like you, like for me, I'm just like, okay, well, what's the number I think I can hold on to unbroken? Okay, I'll pick that number instead of picking 2 more than that. And knowing I'm not going to be able to break. It's just, I'm not going to be able to do it unbroken. It's just a matter of when. As you were saying that answer, something else I thought of was, I think, really early on, unless it was a partner workout, I never programmed any intervals. And I think if someone would have told me early on, hey, instead of just going for 8 minutes as hard as you can, because especially back then, all of us came out way too hot. I mean, everybody did. That's just what you did. You came out hot and you tried to hold on. And for 4 minutes, you were just like zombie out there. Just do 2 on 2 off and do 4 sets of that. And you're probably going to accumulate more volume. You're going to move better for longer. You're going to be able to coach during the rest and give some cues. You're going to prevent movement breakdown. You're going to sustain a higher intensity. And all you needed you needed 14 minutes instead of 8 minutes. So I think early on, if someone would have kind of wised me up a little bit to how intervals can be used, especially for the general population, as a way to really govern good intensity, I think I would have probably not been so bad early on. So
Well, yeah, that reminds me. This probably is my number one answer. I did way too many intervals. I never did for time stuff. I never did AMRAPs in my own training. I would even, like, just speaking of, like sometimes I would change the workouts Josh wrote for me. Probably more often than not, I changed for time and AMRAPs to interval workouts.
oh wow.
I just thought it was like, it felt harder to do. It feels like you're working harder because you obviously are. You're getting rest, so you can go harder. But for time, like we know, for time and AMRAPs are hard in a different way. You have to be more disciplined. You have to know yourself a little bit better. You have to pick it up again when you don't really want to. Whereas on intervals, hey, I'm about to get rest, and then I'll want to again by the end of my rest.
Yeah, this is probably a show with Taylor. We need to do this topic because I feel like it's something that comes up every year when the new year starts. People, how do you think you should build to the open or build to quarterfinals, and how should you adjust your training? And that's something we should dive into for sure, whether it's for affiliates or for your competitors. Like, I think they really enjoy stuff like that. But something that I think is really important is that year round, like if you're someone that wants to do well in the open or you want to do on quarterfinals, that's one workout a week for 7 days, is that doing for time or AMRAP as hard as you're going to do an open workout is not reasonable, and it's not something that most people are going to be able to do. And I think that knowing how to kind of taper toward that is a skill as far as programming goes. A few months out, maybe you're doing a lot of one-to-one stuff, so you're really trying to push the pace and you're trying to push transitions, but you can recover. And then as you get closer, that rest interval starts getting shorter and shorter until now you're doing more AMRAP for time. Because you may get one interval online, like a 1-on 1-off or a 2-on 1-off, but for the most part, you got to be good at classic CrossFit. And if you're doing too many intervals too close to the competition, when you get a 12-minute AMRAP, you're just at 6 minutes, you're done. Like you haven't trained that kind of engine. Like I think you said the other, it's a different kind of engine than, going for 4 minutes or going for 20 minutes. That 8 to 12 minutes that a lot of workouts end up falling in is something that you have to train at that intensity the closer you get to competition. So
yeah. And that's definitely something I never did when I started training. Where was I? What are you currently experimenting with in your programming and why? So for me, and most of the time when I'm programming with Taylor. So I don't want to speak for him, but I can pretty confidently say we don't experiment with stuff in programming for other people, or so like Sentinel or individuals. I would say most of the time when we experiment with things, it's in our own training. And a lot of the times we know there's going to be a pretty quick turnaround. Like, hey, this is going into Sentinel. We know it's going to be good. Sometimes we experiment with stuff that we're unsure of, and then it is really good and we add it, or it's not and we don't. And then for me, I experiment with stuff all the time that I know is just kind of dumb, but like I want to do it. Right now, what I'm experimenting, I would say something we just experimented with was a lot of jump rope skills, courtesy of Dave Newman, when we were at Affiliate Con and we went to his talk, and he was talking about all the different things and progressions and stuff you can use jump rope for. That's not just double unders and not even just triple unders either. But he basically said that the jump rope is the gateway to athleticism, and showed all these different sorts of skipping techniques and stuff. So we messed around with that a lot while we were there, and it's something we already knew and agreed with immediately. But I would say we started doing it a lot and messing around with it a lot, and then had a pretty quick turnaround into going to Sentinel. Something that is more on like the dumb side that I wouldn't program for anybody else, but like I would just do. I'm gonna try to see how many alternating days I can do 200 push-ups and 200 strict pull-ups. So like 200 push-ups And both days I've done this so far, I've done 200 sit-ups with like your feet on dumbbells and hands behind your head. And then like on the alternating day, 200 strict pull-ups. So just doing that as many days in a row as I can. But that's not something I'd ever write for somebody else.
That's great, and you'll see benefits from that. Doing stuff like that before, it really does. Like all those reps will add up, and something will start to feel better that you weren't expecting. Rope climbs, strict handstand push-ups, just from all the push-ups.
Yeah.
Whatever, and it's some kind of trunk flexion movement, just because you've accumulated those thousands and thousands of reps. Something that we've done over the last, I guess, 7 weeks. Next week is kind of the last day of this kind of cycle that we've been doing. Is we've been doing a lift before conditioning that's only been odd object. And yeah, I mean, we having the turf, it's easy to be like, hey, put on 10 plates and push 30 feet every 2 minutes for 10 minutes. And like, yeah, that's great. It's really heavy. It doesn't beat you up. You get a crazy response to it afterwards, whatever. But like doing heavy sandbag, heavy dumbbell, heavy kettlebell stuff, but trying to do that in the same way that we would do front squat or push press or back squat. So like one day was a 300-foot sandbag lunge, as heavy as you can go, and you can't do any less, you can't do any more than 10 sets. So, and you have to get it done in a 15-minute window. So you had people that were doing 30 feet and they were trying to do it every minute. You had some people that would do 50 feet and then rest 2 minutes and then do another 50 feet and rest 2 minutes. But everyone went heavy. And it was cool because the next day or the 2 days after, people would talk about how sore they were from it. And I think it's not because of the amount of weight. I mean, anyone could do a back rack lunge with a barbell, and it's probably not going to make them as sore with more weight. But I think maybe just using an odd object, doing it for more traditional strength movements, having a lot of trunk work without doing any kind of dynamic movement. So like anti-rotational or anti-flexion, I guess is what you would call it, where you need that same stability that you would use on a heavy deadlift or a heavy back squat, but using odd objects has been pretty cool. And I think a lot of people have enjoyed it. So it might be something that I try to do like once a year, for 8 weeks, just incorporating odd objects, not in conditioning settings, but in more so what you would call a strength setting where you have a lot of recovery.
Yeah, I mean, I think stuff like that is odd object stuff is really good for strength and underlooked a lot of the time. And when I'm talking about like experimenting with stuff that I know is kind of stupid, it doesn't necessarily mean there's not a point to it. Like if 2 days ago, Taylor and I did for time 1 mile run, 200 push-ups, 200 sit-ups with feet under dumbbells, hands behind your head, and then 1 mile run. The next day, 200 strict pull-ups. And then today was technically a rest day for me, but after doing some work, I did 250 push-ups and 250 sit-ups for time. And then I'll go back to the strict pull-ups tomorrow, maybe do 250. But if I finish this and get, however many days in a row, and then like I just feel like a god at burpees and my press off the floor never gets tired and things like that, just little things like that to take away from, that's always in the back of my head now. So when someone comes to me and tells me they suck at burpees, like an individual or just someone on Sentinel who wants to add a little bit of accessory work, I'm like, hey, maybe you don't need to like change this burpee workout and add more volume. Maybe just do some push-ups when you're done and just add some accessory work like that. So little things like that. And just having tried it, even if it's something that, like I said, I wouldn't program for someone else, having done it and even if the answer and the thing I take away from it is, wow, that was really stupid, I fucked my shoulders up doing that. Now I know that whenever someone comes to me and there's like, hey, I was thinking about just doing a fuck ton of strict pull-ups and push-ups for a while, I'll just be like, no, don't do that. Like you're going to fuck your shoulders up.
No, you won't. I mean, I did 100 burpees a day every day for a year last year.
Yeah.
And I already don't have good shoulders. So if that, and that's a dynamic movement, the push-ups are more controlled, which I think is a way smarter way to do it. Burpees, I think at this point in the game for competitors, if you're legit and you're like trying to make a semi and you're on the border or you're going to make it, a burpee is just going to become a pressing fatigue issue for you. It's
Yeah.
not going to be a breathing issue. And
Yeah.
that's something elite people have a problem with. Most people in gyms say burpees suck because I get tired.
Yeah.
And I just get tired of falling down and getting up over and over again. It just puts me out of breath. Like, yeah, it's tiring. But the fitter you get, the more muscular it becomes. So I
Yeah.
think that instead of having someone just do millions of burpees and just really loathe doing that, yeah, dude, I think hand release push-ups, strict push-ups, ring push-ups, I think anything in that plane of press is like the way to go for
Yeah.
sure.
Which one do you want to do next?
Let's see. This is a good one. This is from, I'm guessing it's La Lampen. Might be an abbreviation. Sorry if I just butchered that. LAMPEN. How do you suggest balancing working out at an affiliate versus following a program? This is a great question. Because ultimately, I think that everyone, at least once a week, needs to work out with other people. I think you can be the most savage person in the world and you can work out with no music in a cold basement by yourself, but it's probably going to be a little bit more fun if just once a week you go to a gym and you just jump into a class with other people. So I think, how do you balance it? It kind of depends on your goals. Usually when you're doing programming, you're doing it alone. I think the best case scenario is that you find a friend or two that kind of have the same work schedules you do, and maybe they can't always jump into structured CrossFit classes, but they can go to open gym, and you're like, hey, you guys want to do Sentinel, or you guys want to follow whatever? Yeah, let's do it. And every day, at least two of you are there following the program, and then maybe one day a week you jump in the partner workout that the gym does. I think that's the best case scenario. You have at least one person you are training with every single day, and you can get that push and that little bit of interaction, but you're not around a ton of people. And then once a week you do get into the community, because one thing that I really appreciate about the people that come to Crash that do their own programming or that follow other programming tracks or have individual coaches is that they still make it a point to jump into a workout at some point in a class once a week.
Yeah.
And I know they don't do it for me because I don't care. And I know that they don't do it for the members because they are members. Like, they're not seen any differently than anyone else in there. I think they just do it because it is fun, and it's fun to try to beat people, and it's fun to compare against people in the class. And it's just, it feels good to work out next to people they don't work out next to all the time, which may be a significant other. It may be no one. It may be just, looking at a whiteboard. And like, I think that that's really, really important. So short answer, long-winded, at least once a week, try to work out with a group of people.
Yeah, I would say the once a week rule is a pretty good rule. I think at the end of the day too, it depends on your gym. Like if you're trying to figure out how to do it and the gym owner doesn't really have any facility set up for open gym and they don't want it, obviously do class or go to a different gym. I think it's up to the gym owner at the end of the day if they allow open gym or not. If you're somewhere that does allow it, and yeah, I agree with JR. Best case scenario, like we have a group of guys at CrossFit Charlotte who does Sentinel in the evening. So things like that. And they usually will take the Saturday morning partner workout, or if the class workout kind of lines up with the Sentinel workout, they'll just jump in the class or just do it because they like the class workout sometimes. So they're still there. I think having a group is a good thing to prioritize. Like if you have that group, you probably can jump into class less. If you're the only person in your gym who's doing Sentinel or whatever it is, and you're by yourself every day, then yeah, maybe trying to jump into class a little bit more frequently than that might be good. And you can just check Sentinel ahead of time, check your class workouts ahead of time, try to see if there's a day that lines up. Even if you have to change something, still just working out in a group like that is really good. The most sore I ever get is when I jump into class at CrossFit Charlotte and take class, and like I get like kind of nervous before it starts. I'm like, I can't lose. Like, it doesn't matter.
Right.
I'm not allowed to lose.
Yeah, that's good. Something else I thought of that would probably be a more beneficial answer to people listening would be you can you it's cool if you want to do class workouts. You don't need to be double dipping every day. So it needs to be smart. So
Yeah.
the class workout may look fun every day, especially more fun than the echo bike intervals you're supposed to do. But if you're following a program, that needs to be 90% of what you're doing. You don't need to do all your stuff and, oh yeah, I'm just going to throw the class workout in too as a finisher. First of all, you sound ridiculous when you say finisher. Don't say that. All right. It's if you're going hard, it's enough. But just because you're doing more does not mean you're doing better. So get with your coach or contact whatever programming you follow and just say, hey, I would love to jump into class 1 day a week. And then there's probably going to be a second day where, because of my work schedule, I'm not going to be able to do the whole programming. How should I go about that? And let the coaches help you navigate. Because I have seen a lot of the time that people will be doing their own programming, but then I see them in class every single day. And I'm like, hey, you're probably overkilling a little bit. Like there's probably a reason why you don't feel like you can really attack a workout, because you're tired and you're doing a little too much.
Under recovering. A couple ones that were kind of similar. I think like 3 people asked something like this: what are the best things for a home gym, or like a top 5 list or necessities for a home gym? I would say definitely a pull-up bar. That's the hardest thing to replace or sub for equipment. If you don't have a pull-up bar, it's really, really hard to modify pull-ups and bar muscle ups and even toes to bar. You can do V-ups, but you don't get that hanging stimulus. So I would say a pull-up bar is number one thing. And then further than that, barbell and weights.
Yep.
A machine. And then I don't know if you would count a place to run as part of a home gym. I mean, if you're just in a neighborhood in a garage, you just have that on your street. But like, I didn't have a place to run at my barn gym in Georgia, and I eventually got an air runner. But I don't know. What do you think?
I think it has to be a rower, barbell, and plates, and a pull-up bar. That's it. And you can be crazy fit with just all those things. Most people have a place to run. You can, I mean, yeah, jump rope is a 4th piece of equipment, but it doesn't take up any room. You can put it anywhere. So like, if you're, a jump rope would be great to have. And especially if you don't have a place to run, or it's super cold and you're not going to go out and run. Skipping rope, doing speed steps, is like a really close stimulus to running. But I think that as long as you have enough weight to where you can go heavy, go light, go moderate, you have a rower and a pull-up bar, you're good to go. And that's not very expensive.
Yeah, and I would say making your pull-up bar also a squat rack is good for a home gym, because then you can do things like heavy back squats, with also getting in that pull-up bar. I'm trying to think of anything else. I think one of the more underrated things to have in a home gym, like once you have all the essentials, I think it's really great to have a GHD. You can use it for a lot more than just GHD sit-ups. And I think being really good at GHDs keeps you really good at a lot of other things, and makes you really good at a lot of other things. So I would say that's like the first in the next tier, maybe after the tier of essential. I would say GHD is at the top of that second tier.
Yeah, and actually, you saying that kind of made me think about a previous question that we answered, talking about things that we were experimenting with. And it made me think that I have been doing something recently kind of along the lines of what you're doing. And it's not something I've ever incorporated in my training before, and I'm a little bit embarrassed to even say it. But I have been doing a lot of hip extensions. So I've been doing hip extensions once a week. Haven't done them in like extra Metcon. I don't really add in hard extra Metcon. I do a lot of every minute on the minute type stuff, or I do just a lot of supersets with a little bit of rest. And I've always had a pretty resilient back, of like, knock on wood, never had back issues. I think it's because my ankles and stuff are so tight that I've always had to maintain a pretty strong posterior, but I also can't deadlift heavy all the time. And we did Hero Month last month, and we did Michael, which is 3 rounds for time of 800, 50, and 50. And back then, that workout was written for a Roman chair that you would see in Globo gyms that you would do back extensions on, but no one has those. So whenever I did some like research on .com, and I think there was a demo person doing it at some point, and they did, obviously their workout is written back extension, but we know if you did back extension, it would take you a week to do 150. So it's hip extension the way you see it done. So we did hip extension and just ab mat sit up. And I could not do the 3 rounds of 50 unbroken, but I did the 3 rounds of 50 ab mat sit-ups easily unbroken. And I just kind of did that work. It was a great workout. I did that workout and I was like, you know what? I should be able to do these 50 hip extensions unbroken. So if I'm that good at anterior, the same type of movement, maybe a hip extension is just harder to execute. But in my head, it's just a basic body weight movement.
I definitely couldn't do it, but I agree. I feel like I should be able to.
I think I should be able to. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna add in. I'm gonna try to get in about 100 a week in some fashion, because I don't want to pull heavy off the floor again. I know that I'm gonna get some good carryover with some other things. You know, on a day that we're doing a bunch of dumbbell snatches, or on a day that we're doing a bunch of sandbag cleans, or on a day that we're just doing a bunch of posterior work, I'm just going to try to get some in, and it's been great. I've felt really good. I've gotten a little bit sore from them. Obviously, you can, to your point, having a GHD, you can load those movements. You can do Sorensen holds, which is just when you hold that parallel position. You can do that with one leg. You can do it with 2 legs. There's a ton of stuff you can do on a GHD machine, to your point.
Yeah, and like one of the comments was a GHD before a sandbag. I was already thinking that sandbag would probably be second in that next tier. But again, like a sandbag is great and such a good tool for fitness, but it's much easier to replicate what you're missing with not having a sandbag than it is to replicate what you're missing not having a GHD, I think. And this
I think after those 3, it's got to be a dumbbell or a kettlebell. I think it's got to be one of those 2.
Yeah, I would say a dumbbell before a sandbag.
Me too. I like the GHD as number 4. A lot of people will say for the space it takes up, for the utility, for the movements, like you can do a ton of movements with that, that like you can turn it into a reverse hyper, like if you want to. Like you're probably going to do it with one of those monkey boots, you know what I'm talking about, where you can put a boot on and like attach a dumbbell to it.
Yeah.
So like you could figure out a way to do that movement weighted, but there's so many things you can do on it. And to your point, I mean, how many toes to bar you want to do in a week? Like there's only so much dynamic. There's only so much trunk flexion movements to choose from. And I think if you get really good at GHD sit-ups, you end up getting better at a lot of other gymnastics movements.
That's how I feel. The best I've ever been at GHDs, I feel like I wasn't working on other things as much, but like that was the best I've ever been at a lot of gymnastics movements.
Probably muscle up variations because of that violent sit up and like, yeah, I mean, I agree.
You can take a sandbag places you can't load your GHD up, but you can also take a 45-pound plate with you anywhere that you could take a sandbag. And you can do so many things with just a 45-pound plate. You can also take nothing and do burpees and run, and jump rope is basically nothing. And this goes against the whole argument that I have just been making. But when me and Taylor were doing that workout the other day, he got to the sit-ups before me. Obviously, he gets to every movement in a workout we do together before I do. And he got to the sit-ups before me, and he was like 25 in or something. And he was like, holy fuck, dude, I'm never doing GHD sit-ups again. And I was like, why are those hard? And he was like, yeah, I just feel it's my abs are cramping and this is so hard. And then when I started doing them, we're laying next to each other in his barn doing sit-ups with our feet under dumbbells for like 15 minutes probably. And, it feels like an eternity. And I finally get to 100 and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, I'm only at 100. And he just started laughing. And like they were hard, like devastating. But again, it is way different.
Do you do
than
a lot of ab mat sit-ups, or people call them
no
butterfly sit-ups? Do you ever do those?
No. So, and we were talking, we had a lot of time to talk in between sets of these sit-ups, and we were talking, I was like, we should probably do even just normal ab mat sit-ups more often, because we never do those. We program them, enough or a decent amount where we were thinking about even programming them more coming up. But I was like, we probably should do those even more in our own training. But I want to stick with this, like at least 200 and 200 of push-ups and sit-ups, and then at least 200 strict pull-ups on alternating days, and just see what that does. Because even today, when I did the 250 and 250, obviously it didn't start with a mile first, but it was so much easier than the other day, like insanely easier.
You'll build up a lot of capacity pretty fast on that. I'm not good at toes to bar at all. I think it's maybe my worst gymnastics movement, if not that, in strict handstand push-ups. And I'm pretty good at GHDs. Not amazing at them, like not like Taylor at them or anything like that. But I am really, really, really good at ab mat sit-ups. And I've come to kind of the conclusion that my midline is really strong, but my hip flexors are just not. So, and all a sit-up is you can't use any of that. So if you're really, really good at GHD, you probably have super strong hip flexors. And it's not that your core is super robust. It's that they're both really, really resilient. And while I can't really access my hip flexors and quads to the point where some people can, and that's what fatigues maybe faster for me, for some reason, just that range of motion and going up and down is just, I can just do it all day. So yeah, I think that I one of the nastiest .com workouts that's ever been written is 100 dumbbell sit-ups for time with a 50 or a 35. So exactly what you're talking about, and you take the dumbbell and you just hold it right here across your chest.
Yeah.
100 for time. It is so bad. It is so hard. It's like doing 200. It's like doing 200 GHD sit-ups for time.
We did that movement at Wadapalooza one year. We dropped into Noah Olson's dad's gym, and that was like the workout of the day. It had that movement in it, and they were really hard. I agree with what you're saying about the hip flexor thing, because I feel like I've always had really strong hip flexors. I've always been good at GHD since I like started doing them. I used to be really bad at toes to bar, but it's because it was all grip limited for me. And then once I started working on my grip strength, toes to bar became like one of my best gymnastics movements. But doing those sit-ups with the feet down and hands behind your head, it was like your top two abs wanted to cramp so bad. Like mine even like hurt to touch right now, because I guess that first motion is just basically a crunch, and then you pull yourself the rest of the way up. But
and I think that's what makes the dumbbell one that hard, because you get off of your shoulders and you're in that crunch position, and then you go to sit up. So it's the top abs just get ruined. So cool. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's is there any? Do you guys have the rule that you have to do them unpartitioned? So you have to do the chunk, or can you do like 10 rounds of 20-20, 20 rounds of 10-10? Like, do you have any rules with how you get to 200?
I think for me, I'm going to just do them unpartitioned. Taylor's not doing this with me. We just ended up, he wanted to do a completely different workout the other day. He wanted to run. And I was like, I don't really want to run. I was just going to do push-ups and sit-ups. And he was like, and then we kind of came up with that workout together. And so he just basically joined in that day with me. I think I just want to do them unpartitioned. I kind of like every once in a while I get into, I just want to do workouts that just seem really shitty on paper. And then like, I'll sway the other way and only do workouts that are super easy to get intensity on for a while. Like, but right now I'm kind of in groove of just doing stuff that is long and sucky every day, and I kind of like it.
Well, that's cool too this time of year, because I think this time of year is when people generally start to get a little bit soft because it's cold. They don't want to warm up. They really don't. They don't. You just don't want to get into something really, really bad and start feeling bad for yourself. And I think it's this time of year, if you're wanting to do that, that's a good thing.
Yeah, and that's another thing with the experiment stuff. One of the things we were experimenting with first, the jump rope thing. I've been doing 10 minutes of jump rope to warm up every day since we left Affiliate Con. I've missed a few days, but almost every day before I do anything, I just get to the gym, take my jump rope out, and set a clock, and just try to jump rope for 10 minutes straight.
Yeah, I kind of, they brought back the crossover double under this past year at the games, and Dave had even been one person to say a few years ago that he just didn't care for the movement. I think it's cool that he put it back in, even something maybe he doesn't like, but he knows is maybe just good test for fitness. If they ever do the crossover single under again, I hope they do the speed step version that you guys did for Kill Taylor, because I think it's a way more difficult movement. It looks better. It's more athletic, takes more coordination. It has more of like a running type stimulus because you're alternating feet. I just think that doing it the way you guys did it, if that workout would have just been crossover single unders, would have been not nearly as good. So I kind of hope that if they bring that back, I'm not saying they should, but if they bring it back, doing crossover speed steps would be, and you count just left, right as one, I think it would be great if they did that.
I mean, yeah, I'm kind of biased. I think it's way more fun to watch. Me and Taylor also make it look really good. I bet you if you had a games field do that, a lot of them, and probably most of them, would look like fucking doofuses. But
just crossovers, single unders, I don't know that. I'm sure now people could, but it doesn't seem like you can do them fast enough to make them look good. That there's inherently a little bit of a slower jump and a slower cadence. I'm sure someone like Dave makes them look really good. But the speed steps have to be done fast. You're not going to pause on one foot back and forth.
Yeah.
It has to be a 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And I think when you get someone that looks really competent, it does look fine. It looks a lot cooler than regular crossovers.
Yeah, and when it's like you're going fast enough and keeping your feet so low that it doesn't even become like bringing your foot up and down. It's like almost bringing your foot forward and backward just to get it off the ground just a little bit. It looks so good.
Yeah, that's like whenever you watch boxers do it, it looks good. Yeah. All right, that was good. Hour went by fast.
Still a couple of good questions that we can save for a different show or something, but
yeah. 11 a.m. tomorrow.
11 a.m. tomorrow. Let me double check just so I can tell everyone here in the comments.
I think that's what it said on the post. I think I saw the post today.
Yeah, 11 a.m. Eastern time.
Gotcha. All right, cool. Yeah, I'm going to try to watch it. Lily has 2 volleyball games tomorrow back to back because they didn't do anything for Thanksgiving. And it's in Polk County, which is like 45 minutes from here. So I'll probably, on the way back from that, it'll be like 11. I'll get to watch it in the car. So it'll be fun.
Nice. All right, guys. Thanks for the questions. If you have any other questions that are burning, just comment them. Like, obviously not in the live chat, but in the actual comments. And then we'll check this video again before we go live next week and maybe talk about a couple good questions again. But